Okay, welcome back, everybody. What a wonderful performance that was. A fantastic version of the Tempest in an online world. I think, for me personally, I think all theatres should be like that from now on. I think we should never even think about returning. I'm just tweeting out about the live stream now. Here, apologies for the technical hitch here. Back here for questions with the cast. Okay, fantastic. There we go. So the link is out, and we are here, and we're delighted to be joined not only by the cast who you've just seen, but by the director of the original, not the original production of The Tempest. He's looking good if he was, but by the director of the 2016 Penley Shakespeare Festival production, Ben Price. Hello, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Yeah, did you enjoy that trip down memory lane? Yeah,
well, that's exactly what it was. It was great fun. Brought back a lot of very happy memories, and well done, everybody. I think to sort of pick that up after all these years.
How do you think theatre benefits from being on Zoom?
Well, as always with these things, it just prompts further sort of creativity, ingenuity, innovation. I mean, it's not the same, is it? But whenever people are sort of backed into a corner, they always want to do the same things, really, don't they? Which is like share stories, do Shakespeare over and over and over again. And if we can't be together, then because of the wizardry of technology, we find ways. So it's great, and yeah, it pushes you to do things and to collaborate in a way which I suppose you wouldn't if you didn't have to be online. So it's good fun. You wouldn't want it to go on forever, or perhaps you would actually. But yeah, but it's cool. It's really, really good fun, and I'm enjoying a lot of what I've been watching. There's a company doing all the Shakespeares, I think, in a similar way, which I've seen a couple of. So yeah, it's great. It's great fun.
And you get to be on the beach at the same time, which is good.
Yeah, looking good here. We're not worried about social distancing here on the beach. Just me.
And so just coming back to the play itself, because obviously you directed it in 2016 in the open air. What was the biggest challenge of not just the open air, but of the play itself, do you think? What's the biggest, if you're a student, say, approaching the script, what do you think is the biggest challenge that you've got to look for as a director?
Well, I think I just would quickly like to say it was a perfect play to do in the open air, because it takes place outside, and it has the unity of time. So it does actually kind of fall to night during the events of the play. So it wasn't, it was a perfect thing to do. So the normal challenges that I know happen maybe at Penley of doing something in the open air actually quite lent itself to being, an outdoor setting, which actually falls to night throughout the course of the play. I think what's tricky probably about the Tempest is a lot of Prospero, and he's quite likable. But I was always more interested, or I really talked to Tom and Alex about his kind of ownership of the island, and how do we square the fact that he's kind of enslaved Caliban and Ariel, and kind of Stockholm syndrome them a little bit, but actually there's tension there throughout, and Ariel doesn't really want to be under his command. Caliban certainly doesn't. So how do you kind of humanize certainly Caliban, and maybe just empathize with him, because he's a monster, but I've always thought it's interesting that we don't really see that much evidence necessarily that he's that bad. There's a lot of stories about him, and Prospero speaks ill of him, but can we actually trust those? So yeah, I think there's a kind of one way of looking at the play, and certainly Prospero and his kind of moral compass. But I think if you actually press that a little bit, it becomes a bit more challenging to do it that way, and you actually start having to bring out some of the tensions between the characters that he's in charge of, and that can almost be a bit uncomfortable, really, when your protagonist almost sort of could be considered through a sort of imperialist and another lens, because I didn't want to lose the likability factor, but I also didn't want to ignore that. So yeah, that was one really interesting part of it, the process.
And so, sort of post-colonial view on the situation. How did you solve that? Just a consciousness of it.
I think we didn't put it right out there, and it wasn't the take that we went after, but we considered it, and as I say, with Tom particularly, so Ariel, we did talk a lot about tension, and him using words like "you're my commander," and referring to him just all the time basically as his boss who's in charge of him, and reminding him that he said that he'd let him go, and these sorts of things. You know, there's that relationship is often done with a lot of love between the two of them, almost like Puck and Oberon, but actually showing that Ariel didn't want to be there, and that Caliban didn't, and actually giving Caliban the room to breathe in his speeches, and to present those speeches as quite beautiful rather than always having him too monstrous. I think the audience did and would start to just question that kind of family unit that Prospero has told us about. I'm so kind to have set Ariel free. I gave Caliban every chance to be good, and he's not been, so I've got to put him under the thumb. Yeah, I think we just let that tension be present, and we allowed the audience to have some time with Caliban in his monologues, where they, I think, maybe saw another side to him. And Alex, who played Caliban, did the two very well. Monstrous, throughout, but then at times speaking very eloquently and proving there's probably a little bit more to him than just this fish monster. So that was, I think that was important, and it allowed us to explore that ownership, I think, again, without making it the focus of our production.
I think that's a fantastic answer, and I think it's also something which different productions have explored using costume, haven't they? That, like, how much do you make them enslaved, and how much do you make them happy or unhappy with their situation? Caliban's often a lot more sort of manacled or chained than Ariel, isn't he? He's a lot less free, but they're both essentially after their freedom the whole time. Yeah, fab. Here's a question that's come in from one of our GCSE students. Which is the hardest or the best? I'm gonna flip it around. Which is the best scene to stage? The banquet, the goddesses, or the harpy? That's a good question.
Yeah, well, we didn't actually. Sorry, go on.
Zoom problems. I was going to say someone's obviously been preparing for their GCSE exam and studying 3 hard scenes.
We didn't actually stage the banquet because I just think, I remember talking with Sarah about it, who is the artistic director of Penley. Hello, Sarah, if you're watching. I hope you are. Thanks for organising this, and to you, Hugh, actually, as well. Yeah, we were talking about, sorry, just remind me of this. Oh yeah, the banquet. And it just didn't really bring that much. I thought the revels that Prospero put forward were sort of enough with the monster and with leading them around and things. So we didn't stage that, so I can't really speak to that. What were the other scenes that the person asked about?
The goddesses, Iris, Ceres, and Juno, or the appearance of the harpy, Ariel.
Yeah, so I think the goddesses, we had a really great designer, and we wanted to do that like it was a performance, because that's what
Prospero's kind of set up, he's almost showing off that he has this group of incredible fairies, and they can create a mask essentially. And it's on the night that, or it's on at the moment that Ferdinand and Miranda are sort of being wed. So I think it needs to be viewed as a performance. It's a bit of a show within a show. And so we used puppetry to do that. And we had our spirits, rather than just perform, they had their own little puppets that they were very proud of. And they got together, and because they're all fantastic singers and performers, those we had playing them, we could see their excitement in performing for Prospero. And all of their puppets actually looked like themselves, with things that had washed up on the island, we said. And they'd made little sort of avatars of themselves that they could perform with. So whether it's doing something like that with puppetry or whatever, I think allowing the excitement of the performance for that scene just gave it a bit of a fun edge, rather than being a bit more straight, which perhaps, as I've seen it, you know, in a more traditional production, just kind of over the top, very grand, gods and goddesses coming down and sort of blessing the wedding. It might be a more interesting take to sort of actually personify the spirits and give them little personalities, and then let's see the spirits actually performing for Miranda and Ferdinand. So that was how we did that. And with Ariel, again, I think it's about who is Ariel to you, and how is he carrying out his duties. And we didn't do it just now, but what we had Tom, who played Ariel, do was have a sort of Glaswegian accent, and though he was dressed in white feathers and fineries like the other spirits, he was quite hard and a bit frightening, actually. And again, what that enabled us to do was to have quite a almost a bit sinister delivery of that speech. So I think, again, getting a bit of an edge on Ariel, and understanding that that's kind of his moment to show his power, show how intimidating he can be. And then you can, whatever that interpretation is, you can really let that come out in that moment.
Fantastic. I'm going to end with a question, which I'm going to invite anyone who wants to come in and answer to weigh in on if they want to. But it's interesting to me how the Tempest is a play which is always chosen for people who are innovating. It struck me that the Royal Shakespeare Company used it when they were working with Intel and having all the holograms. And it's the play that I've seen more than any other chosen by companies who are working now. There was a company, Creation, who did it in people's homes, a sort of live streamed version of it. It seems to be the thing that people pick for innovation. And I wonder if anyone had any thoughts on why that might be, beyond, I guess, just a Shakespeare play to have a go with, which has been around and the themes stand up.
Yeah, well, if I just make a quick comment, Hugh, before you open it up, I'd say two things. Firstly, it is just the magic of the show, and the production you referred to there. They wanted to do something which had never been done before with Ariel, and have a sort of motion capture and things like that, which hadn't really been done in a theatre. So, you know, the magic is obviously going to be great fun. Also, I think it's quite complex, and it was, I think, the last play that he wrote, and there's a lot of texture to it, and there's a lot of different ways that you can interpret the characters and the dynamic, the story, and also the setting, which is, okay, it's a sort of blank canvas, really, a desert island, and people are able to say, okay, well, what if this was, you know, in space, or the many other ways it's inspired people to do things. So yeah, there's a lot of different directions to go, and I simply don't think they've all been done. And as a magical show, it's obviously a lot of fun for people to innovate. So those would be my thoughts.
Fantastic. Okay. That's really, really brilliant to hear. Really, really useful for all of our students watching as well. So thank you very much. And thank you to everybody for your time and your effort in preparing for this and for performing this afternoon. It's a big thank you from Reigate Grammar School, from Penley Shakespeare Festival. Everybody, we obviously hope that theatre will be up and running soon, that we're going to be able to watch things like this live as soon as possible, as soon as it's safe for us to do so. In the meantime, take care, stay safe, and we'll look forward to seeing you as soon as we possibly can. There'll be an awkward pause now while I work out which buttons to click to stop the streaming, because the button is covered by something else, but I'll make it full screen and we can hopefully do that. There we go. So it's a pleasure, and we'll see you soon.